Hey, all. I am super excited to have our podcast guest here today. We have Kimberly Wilkerson of Token Clothing Company. And this story, so we were introduced a couple weeks ago, and her story and what she's trying to build here just really took me back to that t-shirt line that I was using, the science of happiness, right? To enable happiness in the world through shirts. And she has done that. She has started a whole clothing line, and this idea of intelligent fashion and how fashion can really evolve and what it can be beyond just the clothes we wear. And so I'm super excited to have her on the show to share her vision of the future with us. So hello, Kimberly, welcome.
Hello, and thank you for letting me be here.
Oh, I'm so excited. Before we jump into the heart of this story, I want you to share a little bit about who you are and how you got to this company and this place on your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am actually a speech language pathologist by trade and have been for, I think, 16 years now. And crazily enough, when I was in graduate school prior to becoming a clinician, I knew that I wanted a fashion company. And I don't even know why I wanted a fashion company because I was focused on science, but I just knew I did. I did have this, I guess, artistic side to me and this creative side to me. And I remember sitting in graduate school and sometimes drawing designs in the side of the margins, right? As I was trying to learn how to become a speech therapist. And those designs they did not look good because I'm not an artist, but I just knew that at one point I really wanted a company. Yet at the same time, I knew I wanted to become a speech pathologist. And so I pursued that route. And along all of these many years, I did little things here and there on the side where I would take some art classes so I could learn to draw better. And I studied some of the masters of the fashion industry. I had a really good friend who is a designer, and we would study together light and texture and colors and patterns and all of those types of things. And so there came a point where actually back in 2020, then 2021, I was really considering, is it time to bring this forward? And I had a job offer as a speech pathologist down to the US Virgin Islands, which I love to scuba dive and snorkel, and who doesn't want to live in the tropics?
Right.
And so I thought, what a fantastic opportunity. But I also knew that if I said yes to that, the trajectory would change and I probably would never launch what I've launched. And so I made a decision, even though we were in the middle of COVID and crazily because of supply and demand, production prices had shot up like 60% actually between when I first looked at things and then when I secondly looked at things. And so I'm like, am I really going to do this? I'm like, yes, you are. So I said no to the Virgin Islands, at least temporarily. I said, let's move forward. And so Token Clothing, between all of the prototyping and the brainstorming and all of the pieces that you have to do with business to launch, all of that took place in a couple of years. We launched in October of 2022. However, in that time, in all of the pre-work, pre-launch time, I started brainstorming. I'm like, okay, what am I going to bring to market first? And I looked back at all of these designs over the years and my notes, and I saw all of this language, partially because I had to write about what I wanted since my artistic skills were lacking. But also with that, I saw all of these positive words because that's how I would doodle. I would include language. And I realized I want to bring something that includes language because I didn't see it in the market. And because I knew the neuroscience and the positive psychology research as a communication disorder specialist, I understood the power of language beyond perhaps even just disorders, but with people who don't have disorders, how language helps them. And so our first line is a line called Pajamas with Purpose. And I intentionally put positive affirmations, I am statements that through market research of women were chosen. The top 3 statements were chosen by other women. And I put those on the interior side of the pajamas with intention. There's a lot of intention behind that. And so that was our first line that we brought forward. And then of course, Jessica, you and I are both wearing our second line, right? Our IMTs, which was just launched last December, a graphic tee line that is purposely designed not just to edify the wearer. So when I look in the computer or the mirror, I get to read this powerful language, but us looking at each other, it's also designed so we each can read the language on one another's shirt, right? Again, with intention, how do we edify people within our space? And so Token Clothing Company is all about merging powerful language that has its roots in neuroscience research with beautiful fashion that creates this idea and this platform of something we have to do every day. We have to clothe ourselves every day. How do we take that and utilize that task to actually elevate and edify our mindset so we transform who we are in a positive, powerful way?
I love
in a
that.
nutshell. Yeah.
I love it. It's taking something that we all do every day and making it a tool for something so much more powerful, right? So you've kind of told us a little, you've told us your journey, and you've told us a little about Token Clothing Company. Are there other fashion brands out there doing this? Why is this so important to be doing in this space?
Yeah. So certainly we have lots of graphic tees, right? There's lots of brands that have graphic tees that show who you support. You think about even, right now we're in the middle of the Olympics, Team USA, and what you see on TV with people wearing USA. Yes, we support our teams. We support our ideas through graphic tees. That's not novel at all. However, or I should say, and I haven't seen anything that is doing exactly what I'm attempting to do. Now, I did see a brand, and I don't remember the name of the brand. Someone shared with me a sweatshirt where the back of the sweatshirt was actually a message to the person looking at it. Like, if you're reading this, right? And I thought that is lovely. And that's kind of interesting. We're working on an athletic line right now that kind of has similar notation to it, where it's a message to people. Think about standing in a gym class and how you're behind people. And so if you're looking at someone's back, what you can actually read, that would be empowering, just like that sweatshirt does. And so I should say I have seen a little bit here and there. But is it something that's being discussed in the world of fashion? I'm not sure. I mentioned to you, I actually just published about a month ago a white paper that really looks at the industry of fashion and how we can help solve some of the mental health crisis that we're facing in our nation and world. And then all of the research that supports that, how we can take the platform of fashion to help do that. And my hope is that people are able to think beyond fashion as they read that paper, right? We're able to think, yes, fashion is an everyday task, but what else is an everyday task? Right. How else can we edify people's mindsets and our own mindset as we interact every day with objects and with responsibilities that we have in others? What can we actually do to lift the language of everyone on this globe? Yeah. That's my ultimate hope and vision with this.
I love it. I had a t-shirt line, but it wasn't like, I was never thinking fashion, right? I was thinking, how do we use, how do we get the science of happiness, of positive psychology out into the world? I did have mugs for a while that on one side it was a message to you, and on the other side it was a message to everyone else. But I wasn't trying to like disrupt an industry. I wasn't trying to like, I wasn't thinking about industry differently. I was just saying, how do we get this message out there? How do we empower people? Right. And so I love that you have found this. You've always been drawn to fashion, and you understand the power of language, and you found a way to meld the two together in a way that really lets the science do the work to let fashion be the powerful tool that it can be.
Right. Yeah.
I find it, you said there's a mental health crisis, and I love the juxtaposition of, I think fashion can sometimes play into that in a negative way.
I agree.
So I love that this is an antidote to that. You want to speak more to that?
Yeah. So I've looked at fashion over the years, right? And I've seen positive and I've seen negative. There certainly can be a lot of competition with fashion. In a big way. And let me share this, and I'll share this in a very positive way. So I participated several years ago, like how long has it been? It was 2000, so almost 25 years ago. I can't believe it's been that long. But I was in the Miss America competition. I was Miss Wyoming 2000. Awesome. And so that's a competition of incredible, intelligent, and talented women. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's still a competition. And there is still, fashion is a huge piece of that. Yeah. And so I think that back then in my early 20s is really what what helped me start thinking about how this can be used in a way, fashion can be used in a way for good. When I dress up and put on makeup, I show up differently. Yes. I mentioned to you, Jessica, right before this, I've been battling a cold, and hopefully I'm still sounding okay, right? But even this morning, I'm like, my goodness, I still feel really kind of horrible. But I thought, no, Kimberly, like, get dressed, put on makeup, show up, create that situation. And so fashion can help us do that. When we start to compare, and this is true, I think, in anything, when we make that comparison, and I will say this is true as well, when I look at a lot of the advertisements right now with fashion, and I'm disheartened, maybe a little bit disappointed by what I see, because I know what could be. I see, again, this comparison, and I see this push towards, if you look like this, if you're perfect according to this, then you are worth something, then you mean something. I've seen that for decades now. And even back again in graduate school, as I was doodling these designs, I thought, I'm going to change the industry. I didn't know I was going to use language to do it, but I thought I want it to be a place where women lift each other. I don't want it to be competitive. I don't want it to be elite. I don't want it to be this vision of you only are worth something if you can look like what the fashion models or the industry is telling you to look like. And I don't even believe, as I've listened to fashion models, I don't even believe that they necessarily buy into what they're modeling, right? I've seen interviews, I'm like, they recognize maybe the disparity between, hey, what I'm doing and how I feel. And so how can we actually take something that traditionally has been quite competitive and make it into something that is collaborative and that actually lifts women? And so that I'm on a mission to do that.
I love it. Okay. So you, in your white paper and in our previous conversations, you've mentioned, I think it's intelligent fashion. Is it intelligent fashion?
Yeah,
okay. Speak to what that actually means.
Sure. So intelligent fashion is something that kind of organically has come up in my discussions, because that's been my thought. How do we take fashion and make it intelligent? So I've started calling it intelligent fashion. And again, with what I've said, how do we take wearing clothing? How do we take this piece of material and create something that allows us to increase in knowledge? When we look at different definitions of intelligence, intelligence in the scripture refers to light and truth. And I am a woman of faith. And so I believe that we are spiritual beings having this mortal experience. I really believe that. I believe that we have a potential that we don't even understand. And if we will believe in the truth of who we are, we will create an incredible world within ourselves, as well as on the exterior of ourselves. So there's scripture, but then again, if you look at, Webster's Dictionary of Intelligence, again, it's being able to have knowledge and understanding and use that knowledge and understanding. So when you are using these affirmations, when you are thinking about them, we know this through neuroscience research, that we're able to increase self-confidence, increase self-competence. There are physiological changes that happen. In fact, there's a lot of research to show about the decrease of anxiety. Okay. And so here's one interesting piece of research that I like to share with people. If I were to put probes up on you, Jessica, and do a functional MRI, and I were to show you 1 2-letter word, okay? Within 1 second, that word would increase your blood pressure. It would increase your heart rate. You know what that word is? No. Okay. Now, there is a word that we need to say sometimes. It's an important word, and sometimes it needs to be said. However, that word is also classified as negative. And again, we know that what happens to your brain immediately, right? You go into this fight, flight, or freeze mode, understandably. And so when you have constant negative language that is self-talk, or even in your environment, you're watching, you're listening to things that are contentious, that are negative, there is physiological changes happening in your brain that then transcends into your body, right? Your brain is the center to control everything. And over a long term, it impacts how you interact with the world, how you're able to show up. Now, the opposite is true. When they're looking at functional MRI studies and there are positive words, positive affirmations that you practice daily, what we see is that your brain is calm. And we know this from meditation and mindfulness, right? We see those brain centers calming down, which allows you to function at your optimal.
Right.
So, and we could get into a lot more science, but
No, I
that
love
would
it.
take
I
more
would
hours.
too. I would.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I love it because it's taking all that knowledge and saying, how do we translate it into a tool that we use every day? It's
Yeah.
saying, how can we, knowing that this is how our brain works, how can we put more positivity out in the world? How can we get more of those I am positive affirmations and statements into everyone's environment, into your own environment? And I think one of the most beautiful things about these shirts is that I can stand in the mirror and I can read this and see it for me.
Yeah.
But as I'm walking to the coffee shop, everyone I pass along the way and the barista and everyone else there gets to read it and see it for them too.
Yes.
And we
Yes.
don't have a lot of that. And it reinforces, one of the pillars of happiness is compassion. And that's the interconnectedness of all of us, right? So it reinforces the fact that we are all connected and our fashion choices, what we choose to wear, affects not just us, but everyone else. So
You're
how can we
absolutely
do
right.
that in a good way?
Yeah. Yeah. It's exciting, isn't it? Right.
I love it.
Fun, it's exciting. And there's, I mean, Token Clothing is doing this right now, and there's other designs coming down the line. But I look at what other fashion companies can do, right? I mean, there's such creativity that exists. And so you can do so many things that reach people's preferences and what they want and what they like.
Yeah. Okay. So that leads us really well into the next part of this conversation, which is really the heart of this podcast and these conversations. And that is, what is your vision for our future? Like, why, if fashion and all these other industries started playing into the notion that what we say and wear and do matters out in the world, what can our world look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I love the phrase, and this again comes from has a scripture basis. We chase darkness with light. That when you think about light, when you think about how the sun rose this morning, right? The darkness dispelled because the sun rose. When I walk into a dark room and flip the switch, the darkness goes away because there's light. And in our world right now, I see a lot of darkness chasing darkness. I see things that are happening that are destructive, that are derogatory, that are vile. And I see a lot of interaction and verbal exchange that is just as dark. And I just think, guys, whoever you are, I'm like, you can't solve problems, darkness, but we can solve it with light. We recognize negativity. We can recognize evil and darkness, but we have to approach it with light. And so whatever industry that is, again, I'll talk about fashion, right? So my vision and how I can see the world, if we would focus on bringing light to whatever we do, right? Bringing truth, putting people before ourselves, thinking about how we truly can benefit and uplift others and the principles that underlie that, which as we look across the societies of this world, we can understand what those principles are. If we will focus on those things and increase that light, that darkness will dispel. But it takes all of us, right? It takes many of us saying, hey, this is how we're going to approach life and approach our industry and approach everything, is we're going to chase this darkness with light.
I tell people a lot that our gift is our light. Like, however you can figure out how to share that light, because light begets light, right?
Yes.
If I share my light, then your light goes. And that's what, again, we know that intuitively, but the science backs that up too, right?
Yes.
When I'm flourishing, you're flourishing.
That's right.
When I have high energy, you have high energy. And so that's what I love about you thinking this through in terms of knowing all of this. How can we design tools that enable it out in the world for us? So I love it. I love your vision. We need light. We need a lot of light right now. I think more and more of it peeks through every day. And it's part of why I have these conversations, because I think there is so much good being done and so many people sharing their light. And it's like, we just got to tell these stories, right?
Right. And I think that's so important, Jessica, is that story sharing and storytelling. And, certainly as I've launched this company and had incredible conversations with people like you, I recognize I'm like, there are a lot of wonderful people in this world. Sometimes if you watch the news, you wouldn't think that.
That's right.
Right? You really wouldn't. I'm like, you guys are wrong. Media, I don't know what you're doing, but you're not doing it right. You're not telling the truth, because there are so many people who truly care about others, who want this world to succeed, who want people to succeed, who want to lift people from situations that they might be in that are horrible. And so they are doing what they can through business, through their talents, through art, whatever medium they're using. And it is incredibly hopeful. And we need to remember this. We need to recognize it. And just like you said, we need to share these stories because it inspires people. I think it gives people hope. They recognize, no, actually, and here's the other piece, we're the ones in charge. You know, I believe in strong leadership in countries, but we're the ones that carry the torch. We don't give it to a single man or a single woman or anyone else. We're the ones that do this. And so we can share these stories of goodness. And through that, again, share that light and inspire others to do their same, do exactly the same. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. I like that you said torch again too. That's just another good analogy with the light. Okay. So you said, you know, we need to encourage these stories. We need to lift one another up, all of these things. So the next question is, we have this vision of what can be, of a world with light, right? Where the light is casting away the darkness. How do we get from here, where we are today, to that vision? Whether it's through, you know, industry disruptors like yourself, trying to make something of, you know, trying to use fashion as a tool to do this, or in other industries. But how do we get from here to there?
So that's, again, a great question. And, you know, with you and I who have businesses, we're trying to do it through business. However, it can start small, right? Yes, I'm using business, but I also was taught by really great parents on how to be a good person and how to make sure that I am being kind and that I'm being charitable. And so those principles were instilled with me as a kid, and I've developed those things. And that's why I can lead a company with those. For all of us, though, it's not about going out and influencing the masses, right? It's that one person, whether you're the parent who's influencing your child to be the best version of themselves that they can, showing them how to serve, showing them how a simple act of service actually influences someone else for years and decades to come. I sometimes don't think that we understand, and this is good for me to say aloud again, because I need to remember it myself. We don't always understand the impact that we can have in simple acts of service. Right. And again, I think that's opposition saying, well, that's not enough. Well, you're not good enough by just doing that. It's not true. A simple act of service to a neighbor, to a community member, to a family member has incredible power. And so when you are an example of service, when you are lifting the one, that one is then enabled to hopefully reach out and lift someone else. So that is where it starts. It doesn't start with government. It doesn't start with universities. It doesn't start with some organization or the state at all. It starts with individuals, and individuals then I think too is the family unit. The family unit is the strongest unit that we have in society. So if you can, the family's a petri dish in multiple ways. If you can, with that petri dish, help kids and help family members understand the power that they have through service, through reaching out to someone, that's where it starts. And it can be contagious in a really great way. And again, as you practice that, then you are an exemplar to other people. And I'm sure you have experiences, I think we all have, Jessica, that when you actually serve someone, you're able to get out of yourself, and you're able, there's almost this magic that happens, right? There's this feeling that really, I don't think you get from anything else, knowing that you've really helped someone else and that you made that connection through helping someone else, right? Because it's love. That's what charity is. And there is a power that transcends when we love others and when we're charitable. There's nothing that can diminish that. There's nothing, I really believe this, there's nothing that is equal to that type of power. So it starts with the one. It starts with us. It starts with us influencing that small circle, and then that circle grows and grows and grows.
I love how you said that, because you did start with like, we have businesses and we're trying to do it from that perspective. And I think a lot of times we say we have to go big. We have to go big. Like, we got to change the world. We got to save the world, right?
Right.
And I like to focus people on, you can change your world. So what is your world? Right? Not necessarily the whole big world, but what's your world? My world is my kids and my spouse and my neighborhood. And it's like, how I show up in those spaces matters more and is going to impact
Yes.
well beyond it. Right? Like, we can change our worlds. And it is all dependent on how we show up and how we use our light, and how we use our light in service of one another.
That's right. I love that. That's right. Showing up.
Which is that's actually what you said right before this. You said, I decided I'm going to show up, even though I'm not feeling well. I'm going to show up. That's how you used your light today. You said, I'm going to show up and share this story and have this conversation.
Right.
Okay. So start small. What is one thing, one action our listeners can go off and do after listening to our conversation here to start us down the path toward the light?
Sure. So I'm going to start with something that I speak about often, related to fashion, related to language, to help them show up so they can influence other people. And here is that one strategy. We are surrounded and inundated by negativity in this world, right? We have to be really vigilant to keep that away.
Yeah.
We also, the default of our minds, people, scientists will say, to protect us, is a lot of negative talk. And there's a lot of research to show that that's the truth. Mm-hmm. That negative talk limits what we can do and how we can show up. So this is my strategy, because I use this myself.
Yeah.
I've used it for years, and I come back to it. I would encourage everyone who's listening to take some time today, even if it's just 2 minutes, to be still, to recognize some of the negative language. What are those statements that you are saying, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not enough. Man, I'll never understand this. Mm-hmm. I never get this right. I'm ugly. I'm too stupid to do this. Whatever it is, whatever those negative statements are, I want you to write that statement down, because there's going to be a few that are a lot more pervasive than others. And again, research shows us that we repeat those things day after day after day. Write that down, and then you're going to physically cross it off. You're going to say, I am, next to it, and you're going to change it to the opposite. Yeah. So easy one, I'm ugly, which sadly a lot of women say, right? I'm ugly, whatever version it might be. No, I am beautiful. I am gorgeous. And you can expand that. And I often do with my own affirmations. I am beautiful. And beauty to me is part of being kind, right? I am kind. I am loving. I try to encourage others. And then you're going to take that new statement, whether you type it, whether you write it, whether you draw flowers around it, whatever you do, and you're going to stick it on your mirror. You're going to stick it somewhere where you see it every day. Because again, research shows us that we change that self-talk through consistency daily, when we're criticizing ourselves, to get rid of that self-criticism, to develop self-compassion, self-forgiveness, self-love. That is absolutely possible if we will repeat the positive affirmations each day. So you're going to stick that somewhere you can see it first thing in the morning, I would suggest. And I oftentimes, with my affirmations, they're posted in different spots around my office, my home, my car, just depends. I listen to them in the morning on an app that I have. And so you're going to look at that, and you're going to not just look at it, but you're going to feel it, right? You're going to envision what that looks like to you. And you're going to take those feelings, take that visualization, which research shows has a huge impact on us, because you will start to become that person. It gives you greater confidence. Yeah. So you can show up in the way that you really want to. And that light will increase in who you are, and others will see it. And it's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's actually an exercise I do with my clients a lot, because it is one of the ways we can physically rewire our brains, right?
Yeah.
We can get rid of that. Well, we can't ever get rid of the negativity bias, but we can rewire those negative thoughts to better serve us and to be in alignment with who we are. And I love that you said, if you're going from I am ugly to I am beautiful, it might take some language around what beauty means to you.
Yes,
because if you don't believe it, you're never going to rewire your brain to it. But if you go, well, beauty to me is kindness, is showing up in this way. Then when you say, I am beautiful, like you can mean it and feel it in your core, right? And that's how we rewire
yes,
our thoughts.
that's right. We have to have that emotion as part of it. Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so I'm going to ask all of our listeners to do a couple things. You're going to go and check out Token Clothing Company. You're going to look at the Pajamas with Purpose, the I Am shirts. I have posted my shirt on social already. I will keep sharing it. And go check out this line of intelligent fashion. See what Kimberly's up to. I'm going to link to the website in all of our information here. And then go do your 2 minutes of quiet.
That's right.
As Kimberly said, and write those things down and do this exercise because it is super powerful and we need your light. And so I want you to find your light and start using it when you show up every day. And that requires a little work and a little reflection, but Kimberly shared an excellent exercise to help us all do it. And again, her line of pajamas and clothes will help you with those rewiring of our brains as well, which is awesome.
Yeah. And just what we'll do too for the listeners is I'll make sure I send this to you to share in your show notes, but we'll have a link. There's a link that I can send on the website as well that has I am statements for listeners.
Oh, awesome.
When they go there, they can download and print those out, or they can actually type in their new statement, print them out, hang them on their wall. So they don't even have to do a lot of extra work if they don't want to.
Oh, so awesome. Yes. So we will add that link here as well. So you guys get extra tools today. Well, thank you so much, Kimberly. I love the work you're doing. I love that you are using your light to help design a world that works better for all of us. Is there anything else you want to say before we say goodbye to our listeners?
You know what? I would just say, remember who you are, right? Remember who you are and who you can become, and don't sell yourself short. Just make sure as you're saying these statements that you feel your worth. That's what it comes down to, is feeling that worth of who you are and whose you are. And as you understand and accept that, you will be able to do incredible things in this life.
Oh, she is so right. I love everything you've shared today, and that it really is all rooted in, one, you and your passion, but two, in what science has shown us and how our brains and bodies work to change how we show up. And thank you for sharing your gift with us, your light with us. We will send listeners your way, and everyone go and support Token Clothing Company and see what it's all about, and show up with your light.
Thanks, Jessica.
All right. Thank you.